hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around and create your own content on said topic. The prompt for this one is indie author folly. So what do I mean by indie author folly? Indie author folly is where I want you guys to kind of share the public relations, the business practices or marketing strategies that you've observed within the independent scene that have made you cringe. Now, I don't want this to be turned into a gossip fest where people are naming names, dropping names, or anything like that. I want this to be an open forum for discussing ideas. So focus on the behavior itself, and let's have a discussion about ideas and kind of use this as like a learning experience for everybody involved. I want to make a case for my belief that creative writing is not about making money, and how I believe this expectation is causing many individuals to suffer from what they're calling burnout. Okay. First, what is burnout? What does it mean to experience creative burnout? To put it bluntly, burnout is just another way of saying that someone's expectations were not fulfilled. It's that lack of fulfillment that I believe leads to individuals feeling burned out, creatively at least. I think what people are really expressing when they say that they're suffering from burnout is actually just a combination of disappointment and frustration. Now, I'm no psychologist, and I don't claim to be, but I'll be honest with you. I know how it feels to suffer from burnout, so to speak, but I never feel that way when it comes to my creative endeavors. Quite the opposite, actually. Whenever I get creative, I feel energized, as if I am coming alive, like it recharges my batteries, if you will. So I think the reason is because my creative projects tend to be a solo endeavor. Okay, it's a private thing when I'm getting creative. And I do my best to take heed of my intentions behind any creative undertaking. I ask myself, am I doing this because I have a passion that is driving this desire to create? Or is the purpose of the project based upon some preconceived expectation, regardless of how realistic it may be? I feel like if you approach any creative endeavor with a rigid idea of what a successful outcome looks like, especially if it's based upon monetary gain, then I think you're effectively setting yourself up for failure as an artist, let alone a businessman. Here's a comment I recently left on a video in which an individual was pondering upon the question, how does one make money with poetry? Okay. That's what their video was about, or the question they were asking in the video. And they're kind of talking about the different means of publishing poetry and whatnot. But to avoid redundancy, I will say this comment basically applies to creative writing in general, as I understand it. I said, quote, unnecessary stress. Creative writing is not about making money, IMO. There are much easier ways of making money. I'm not saying people shouldn't be paid for producing art, but a lot can go awry when individuals try turning their creative endeavors into business ventures, whether it's compromising their emotional well-being and or the artistic integrity of their work. An artist can value their works, but when it comes to capitalizing upon or profiteering from art, I'd say step one is don't hold your breath. Step 2 is go study finance. You'll be better off in the long run. End quote. And I sincerely mean that too. I'll tell you right now, I did not get into creative writing. That what I mean by creative writing, I mean writing / publishing fiction for the purpose of making money. Taking that a step further, and based on my 5 years of experience as a published author, I will tell you that publishing fiction is not something that I would consider a viable method for generating a reliable source of passive income. So if that's your intention going into this, so for you aspiring authors out there, if that's your intention going into this, then maybe take some time to consider where you're at in life. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful manner. I mean it for good reason. Because the only thing you may be creating for yourself, if that's your intention, is unnecessary stress. So I don't want to leave this on a low note. What I want to say here, what I want to kind of discuss ideas and like use this as like a learning experience. So here's what I bring to the table. So how can artists, and that's artists with a capital A, okay? I'm talking about individuals who possess a genuine passion. So how can they prevent this feeling of burnout and protect the feeling of enthusiasm they have for creative endeavors? So I have a couple of tips, just the tip for you guys tonight. Tip number 1, do not treat your passion projects like a business venture. Okay, if you are deriving pleasure from creating, then you should never feel like you have to force yourself to be creative by muddling your creativity with financial expectations. That's Hollywood. That's mainstream. Let Hollywood worry about balancing budgets, okay? As an independent artist, you have all the time in the world until you set a deadline, okay? But the idea is that your creativity is based upon inspiration and not a feeling of obligation. Which brings me to my next tip. Speaking of writing, tip number 2, do not write checks your ass cannot cash. All right. When inspiration comes, some people have a habit of getting wrapped up in their own excitement. And the first thing they tend to do whenever they have exciting news is way too much talking. Then, when the time comes to actually put in the work or deliver upon a promise, they realize their inspiration for said project was short-lived. So the individual now finds themselves in a situation where they feel as though they must defend their shortcomings with excuses in an attempt to save face and salvage their reputation, which makes me cringe just thinking about it. So my suggestion is to make a habit of zipping your lip before making any grandiose promises, okay? And just focus your energy on delivering a finished product as you enjoy the creative process. And that's my take on creative writing and making money from creative writing and the creative process. So if you guys tell me what you think. What do you think about creative writing and profiting from creative writing, or getting into creative writing with the idea that it's going to become a passive income? I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Do you have any tips that you'd like to share with dealing with this thing that people are calling burnout?